Welcome to episode 155 of Radio 815, the podcast dedicated to examining the work of writer-director J.J. Abrams as well as his greater Bad Robot universe. I'm your host for this week. My name is Marcelo Inostroza, joined as always by my fellow co-host, Matt Crandall. And on today's edition of the show, we will continue our journey through What About Brien Season 2. We will be talking about episodes 8 through 9 this week. The first episode up in that batch is the episode entitled, What About Seacrets? So, Matt, I noticed that you had a sling on your arm. Are you okay?
I was in a car wreck with my secret lover, as we are going to discover. I have mentioned previous when Angelo died, and they're like, what the hell was this guy doing going for a joyride in a different part of Italy than he was supposed to be in? And of course, that comes out by the end of this episode, because early in the episode, we find out that the people who have been making Angelo's movie are working at lightning fast, incredible speeds. They are not only done filming for a movie that they were still shooting 2.5 weeks ago, they already have a finished cut and they're going to screen it in Nicole and Brian's city that they live. I'm like, holy shit, this is some incredible independent filmmaking turnaround where this movie is ready to screen. And that storyline being Nicole goes to the screening and sees the lead actress of Angelo's film wearing a sling on her arm and getting so emotional at the movie that she can't watch it. And Nicole starts to think, oh shit, was Angelo screwing around with this woman? And it's so funny that, this isn't the beginning of the episode, but we'll talk about this arc now just because it's well done, but it's also ridiculous. I love that Nicole makes Dave come with her to the premiere, and partway through the movie, she's like, I can't watch this anymore. I gotta leave. And Dave's like, okay, let's go. And she's like, no, you stay and enjoy the film. If I was Dave, I'd be like, I'm not enjoying this fucking film. It's a foreign language movie with my friend who just died. I don't need to see it. I can see it later. Like, if you're upset, I'm upset. Let's get the fuck out of here. So I thought it was another moment where I'm like, there's no way in hell, from everything we know about Dave, he's going to sit through this horrible fucking movie with his friend on screen who just died. So I thought that was really funny. And then, of course, we get a scene where Nicole is already overreacting and, like, packing up all of Angelo's shit because she's mad at him. And then she realizes maybe she should give him the benefit of the doubt and try and figure out what was going on. But eventually she can't let it go. And this woman, the other actress, tells her, like, oh, Angelo loved you more than anything and he was in love with the baby. But then we do find out they did have a fling. He did sleep with her. But she's like, it meant nothing. Like, it was just a physical thing. So what do you think now that, they planted those seeds early in this arc? And now we're getting the payoff of Angelo did fuck around, but it wasn't like he was going to leave Nicole. He was still all in before he died in the accident.
The second I saw Angelo's co-star wearing a sling, I was like, "Oh shit, she was in the car with him during the accident." I'm really glad that Angelo had a fling, but he was able to come to his senses and realize that his true love was Nicole. Although I will boil her reaction to her finding out that her dead husband potentially had an affair, to the fact that she is pregnant, that she is hormonal, and that she's out of her mind at this point. And I'm going to do something that I don't like doing. And you guys know that I don't like doing it because for weeks on end now, I've been driving his name in effigy to the mud. I defend Dave for going to Angelo's premiere with Nicole. Look, you know me, Matt. I don't do good with foreign films, and there's no way in fucking hell that I would ever go see a foreign film in the theater. But in Dave's defense, I believe that he was just trying to be. I believe that he was just trying to be understanding to Nicole because she's pregnant, she's hormonal, and she just lost her friend. Under that vernacular, seeing Dave wanting to support Nicole does make me happy. But I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, you don't want to be here, but you're just being here to support Nicole and to help her out, which I found to be really nice when it comes to Dave. And again, you guys know what I think about Dave. I want him to die a nice and slow, horrible death. So for me to defend this character, it's a stretch, but I think it happened for me in this one instance.
Yeah, I think it was nice of him to go. I just found it so weird that she gets upset and he doesn't go with her. And it's like, okay, he's staying? This is makes no fucking sense. But I will say this show, they have gone through the ups and downs of retooling, and this episode is written by the show's creator, Dana Stevens. So I think this is kind of indicative of what she wants the show to be now with the dynamics that we get into. So we do continue, the whole Nicole Angelo thing finally gets resolved so that we can move forward, and in the future we can have her have the baby and not have to dwell on the mystery of Angelo's death, which is nice. The Brien aspect of this, so the title, what about Seacrets? The first secret that we talked about is the Angelo had a fling before he died. The second thing is that Brien is really starting to fall for Bridget at work. And Brien is doing well at work. He gets a new car that his dad has picked out for him. It's his dream car that his dad remembered. Brien had a poster on his wall. And so it's a really sweet moment where, we're seeing Brien and his dad, who have been estranged and haven't had a good connection, starting to connect, and Brian's doing good at work, and his dad remembered something personal about him, which shows that he cares. And him and his dad go for a joyride in his new company car, which is a company tradition, so it's not special treatment, but instead of it just being like a boring Ford Taurus or some shit, like it's Brian's dream car. And as they're driving, his dad is like, please come to the house and please meet my new wife. Like, I really want you to get to know my family now. And Brian's hesitant, but then he does, and he has a nice talk with his dad's wife, and like everybody's getting along great. And Brien and Bridget continue to have their thing, and she says, look, what we did was kind of a mistake because I do have like an on again, off again boyfriend. And Brian's like, the fuck? You haven't mentioned this guy before. Why is this coming up? And she's like, no, look, like, I like you, but I don't think I can go down this road because it's too complicated. And Brian's like, uncomplicate it. Tell this guy to fuck off. Like, you're done. And like, let's go full steam ahead. And of course, the second secret of the episode is that the person that Bridget is sleeping with is Brian's dad, which, Brien sees them in the lobby when she's trying to break it off, and he's taken aback because we know that his dad wasn't faithful to his actual mom. His dad kind of has flings. His dad just made Brien meet his new wife and like made Brien really like her. And now he knows that he's cheating on her, and nobody wants to be Eskimo brothers with their dad. So it's like, oh shit, what the fuck? So Brien, it's really going to shake things up because obviously this is going to change everything for Brien and Bridget's dynamic going forward. What did you think, Marcelo, when all of a sudden Bridget has this on again, off again boyfriend that we're learning about, and then by the end of the episode, realizing that it's Brian's dad?
I fucking hated the second secret, finding out that Bridget was sleeping with Brian's dad, because I hate men who cheat on their wives. I fucking hate infidelity. I hate people who are not loyal. And it drove me up a fucking wall how Brian's father tried to sort of soften the blow for, for Brien possibly finding out later on that, oh, by the way, before you played hide the salami with Bridget, I did that. And I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you, man? You're trying to cover your own goddamn fucking guilt. Brien is a good guy. Granted, he's a bit of a dog. Why do good guys always get shit on and treated like lesser than or have bad parents? Bad Robot at the studio has a thing with having their main characters or having their core characters have bad parents. Brian's reaction when he finds this out is perfect. And I'm like, you go. And I was ready for Brien to have a giant spaz attack and walk out of his dad's life forever. The fact that he is sticking around there is driving me crazy, but I understand it. The reason that he's sticking around there is because of financial reasons. But God fucking damn it, I hate disloyalty. But with that being said, it makes for good television.
It does. It makes for interesting television. And of course, that's like the end of the episode. So we still don't know how Brien is going to react in terms of what's going on with him and Bridget, but we know it's not going to be good. The other two like major storylines that we need to talk about, first, not one of the Seacrets involved in the titular What About Seacrets, is just Dave and Dina are still working out the kinks of being separated and how they're going to go about that. And they start to have some difficulty because their kid at school punches a kid in the face because that kid says, you don't have a dad or something. And she's like, yeah, I do. And of course she does. So this is stupid. And they get called down and they realize that, like, we're seeing the toll that this separation / divorce is starting to have on the kids because they haven't worked out a good balance of who's doing what. So I thought it was interesting that, yes, kids can be stupid and cruel, but also, divorce is so common that, like, I know in the 80s somebody might make a shot like that to a kid, but nowadays I don't know that kind of ridicule would take place on a playground because your parents got divorced. Because, like, so many people have different home lives that, like, nobody comments on that stuff anymore, I feel like. How did you feel about Larissa socking a kid in the face because he made a crack about her dad?
I will agree with you that in today's age, divorce unfortunately has become commonplace in the human lexicon because it happens so often this time. But my one defense for Larissa punching this kid out when this kid mentioned to her that she doesn't have a dad, you have to think about her age, right? If she was a preteen or a teenager and somebody said that at school or somebody said that in a lunchroom, she would probably deflect that with some snarky humor, right? She wouldn't go to physical violence because of her age. I think that's why she reacted in the way that she did. And let's be straight here, okay? Dave and Dina are like the worst parents ever. And their failure is the fact that they got so married young, but they forgot to communicate with one another. They've forgotten that. That crux of not communicating with each other is leaching into their new dynamic of learning how to be parents separate from one another. Because in this episode and in the next one that we're going to talk about in just a little bit, I got this feeling that Dina sort of wants Dave back because she doesn't really feel comfortable discussing the possibility of dating other people. And I'm like, why don't you do that? Because this is part of the course now. You guys are divorced, and Dina, for some reason, is acting like an individual that is still holding on. And there's nothing left to hold on to because you guys already fucking burned down the dam. There's nothing left.
Right. There is nothing left. And yeah, the age of Larissa is a good point. A lot of this is partly brought to our attention through the fact that Dina realizes that, maybe she should get back out there. We saw her flirt with TK when he ordered some cupcakes before, and she goes on a date with this coffee shop guy who ends up being like a real ding dong. Just like a way too young for Dina, but also he's like a surfer bro who just happens to work at a coffee shop, not ambitious. And then she runs into TK again, and so she goes out with the coffee guy, and then she sets up a date with TK again, and then the thing happens at school, and so she has to miss the date. And Dave's like, you were doing dates 2 nights in a row on nights you have the girls? This doesn't make any fucking sense. When you have the kids, you're supposed to be with the kids. Schedule your shit for the weekend. So her and Dave have like a pretty big fight, and the kids witness the fight, and so that is gonna fuck up the kids a little bit. And I like that then Dave's like, go to your room. And then after they're done shouting at each other, and she's like, I don't hate you. And he's like, I don't hate you either. Did you hear that, kids? I don't hate mommy. And I thought that was pretty funny and kind of true to life. But I do wish that they can get to a point where this stops being so dramatic, just the who has the kids and we suck at divorce, which is like a relatable thing for a lot of people, I'm sure, as they try and navigate it. But it makes both of them unlikable. Only because Dina is so new to the dating scene that you should not be putting a date ahead of your kids. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It really just shows that, like, they aren't putting the interest of the kids first, which I've mentioned, like with Brien ignoring all the calls about the birthday party. It pisses me off that nobody puts these kids at number 1. They're at like number 3 on the list for even their parents. And I'm like, how in the fuck? So that frustrated me. And I kind of, TK also seems like a dud to me. Like, I don't care about this dude. So him trying to set up a date with Dina and trying to hook something up, I kind of checked out on it. How do you feel about the TK Dina stuff?
TK to me is someone that I don't think Dina would like, because I think he's just a suit. I think he just sees Dina as something that he could have and something that he could potentially control. I know that sounds bad, but I just kind of saw it through the nice, charming, nice, charming. Oh, I'm a billionaire and I can do things for you that your husband could never do for you, because I'm a trust fund kid and your husband has always been a man-child in his underwear designing video games. With that being said, before we move on to the final episode that we're going to talk about this week, do you want to say a single word about the storyline between Summer and Adam in this episode?
Yeah, so that is the third secret, is that Heather has a criminal record. And Adam doesn't do digging, but motherfucking Jimmy does. And Jimmy, who has been nothing but annoying since they've added him to the cast, I hate to say it, like, I like Ivy. I think Ivy is charismatic and funny. We have a relationship with Amanda Foreman from other shows. And I generally like Jason George as an actor, but like his character keeps sticking his nose where it doesn't belong and like steering Adam in the wrong direction a lot of the time. And he runs a background check on Heather because this is the episode where like everybody realizes that Adam and her are married and they are going to try and make it work. And so they have like a little party at the beginning, and we find out that Jimmy ran this check and that Heather has a record, and he gives it to Adam as like, you need to know this if she didn't tell you. And Adam's like, well, she didn't tell me because I didn't ask. And we've also only known each other for 7 days. So maybe give the bitch a chance to come clean about it because we haven't brought it up. And so, of course, Adam being Adam, he doesn't read it. He tells us that he's not going to read it, but he puts it in his jacket pocket, and then Heather finds it and is like, what the hell is this bullshit? And then he has to say, it was all Jimmy, I didn't do it. So I do like that Adam didn't read it, and he seemed like a stand-up guy in that moment. And then they do have like their heart-to-heart as a result, but it also felt a little bit like him bringing that paper home felt a little bit like TV writing, like we need X to happen, so Y has to happen. When like, if you weren't going to read that, then don't even put it in your jacket pocket, fucking throw that thing in the trash at work.
Jimmy is such a Badinsky. I hate this character. I love the actor from Station 19, but the fact that this guy, like Matt said, continues to give his opinion in places where it's not wanted is ridiculous. And Matt said it, right? The fact that Adam took that piece of paper that Jimmy that showed some of Heather's history that Adam didn't know. The fact that he took it after Jimmy laid it on his desk and put it into his pocket, I was like, this is TV writing and this is going to come back later. But the other thing that I really like about that scene, though, listen, it was pointed and it was like a hat on the ground to lead to something else. But what I liked about that scene so much is when Adam and Heather had their blow up in their house, Adam, when they were sitting on the couch, said something very, very, very pathetic or prophetic to me. He was like, I have seen what not talking to one another does to a marriage. My friend Dave and Dina ruined their marriage because they couldn't tell the truth. And I don't want to be that type of individual. So as TV writing or as plotting as that was, I think the conversation that that TV plotting led to sort of saved it for me. You don't obviously feel that way, but I kind of do.
Well, overall, it was like they ended up in a good place, but it just felt like really convenient how we got there, which is fine. But again, I wish maybe Adam had thrown out the paper and then gone home and just had a conversation with Heather in general, saying like, hey, we don't know each other very well. Maybe if there's anything that I should be aware of, you can tell me, rather than having it come from a place of they start fighting and then they end up at a good place. But it was probably just because they wanted to get the Dave and Dina dig in there one more time.
And on that note, we move on to the final episode that we are going to talk about this week. Episode 9, entitled, What About True Confessions? So, Matt, 50 hours of community service? Don't you think that's a bit excessive?
I sure do. And if you're getting sentenced to community service, do not tell the judge that you think the amount that they're giving you is too much, because you're lucky to get such a slap on the wrist instead of something more serious. And in those moments, you're just like, Brien, I know you're mad about your dad fucking your girlfriend, but can you shut the fuck up right now, please? Like, what are you doing? And even Adam's like looking at him like, dude, like, cut it out. Like, you've already fucked up my life so much. Can you please not? And again, this is the fallout of the fact that Jimmy, their supposed friend, called the cops when they were having that fight at his wife's bar. And I'm like, dude, maybe you could have just pulled your pals aside and like saved us all the fucking hassle, you Budinsky know-it-all son of a bitch. Like, please. So I thought that was funny. It was a nice light way to open the episode, where they're getting sentenced and Brien can't help himself. But then, they decide they're going to go help at this homeless shelter. So we get kind of like the heavy-handed messaging plot of the episode, which is fine. They handle it in an interesting way to remind everybody that, like, when people help out at soup kitchens or shelters, a lot of people are willing to go if they are forced by the judge, or like they only help on like the one day of the year that they can help ease their conscience. But this is a thing that, like, 365 days a year, these unfortunate people need assistance, and a lot of people aren't willing to give it. So I thought it was handled pretty well. And, Adam just taking all the homeless guys to a burger joint and buying them a big meal, thinking that will kind of put an end to it, and then having a real conversation with one of the guys there is an interesting way for them to hit the, like I said, like the messaging, the more after school special aspect of this episode. But it didn't feel so preachy that I'm like rolling my eyes, but also with the amount of drama that's going on around it, it felt a little bit awkward that we placed that in there. But this episode in general is awkward because a bunch of it is flashbacks, which is not something that What About Brien has generally done. So structure-wise, this episode is different than the others, so it made sense to me that they were also trying this like message of the week at the same time we're doing an episode that plays with structure more than we have in the past.
Yeah, listen, I thought that, having Brien and Adam have to pay for their little bar tiff that they had was an interesting concept. I didn't really look at it. I didn't really take it from the point of view of, oh, this is a chance for the writers to sort of step on their soapbox and sort of to have an episode of the week to take one of your to take the way that you looked at it. I looked at it, I was like, okay, this is the writer's opportunity to actually give the character of Brien and Adam a look at how unique and special their lives are. So perhaps they'll stop squabbling over fucking useless bullshit.
Perhaps. And I will just point out that I think we have seen, with Jimmy being so fucking annoying, Adam is not happy at being a lawyer and with his chosen career path. And we've hit a couple of times that he's not going to make partner. And so maybe this is actually going to send him on a different road, because we've seen him be so unhappy in his work that this might be the impetus for the direction Adam is going to take professionally going forward.
Right. I for one would be happy about that, because I for one think Heather was the cog of that happening. So anything that takes Brien or anything that takes Adam away from being a lawyer, there is a bad robot Easter egg in here. Did you catch it?
Of course I did. I got it written down. I was going to wait till we were
Okay.
talking about the Nicole, but you drop it on us.
Basically, the storyline of Nicole in this episode is that she is possibly weeks away from having this baby, and she's doing everything that she can to find a way to humanely push this baby out of her stomach, because right now she looks like a fucking weeble wobble. The girls are, making dinner for the boys, and Nicole is talking about, all sorts of methods on how to induce pre-labor. And one of the methods that she actually talks about is,
She said, I hate that I'm still pregnant. This baby is kicking me all the time. And they said, yeah, babies do that. And she goes, no, I'm talking full-on Sydney Bristow kicks. So she's saying that the baby is kicking like a motherfucker inside there, and it's hurting but she uses Sydney Bristow as the reference for the power that the baby is using in there, which I thought was great.
I got an idea in my head. What if Adam being with Heather, what if Adam now being married with Heather takes him off the market, and Brien being with his coworker at the real estate company? I don't think that's going to go anywhere, because they're kind of on a seesaw, especially now with finding out that Brian's dad is a son of a bitch. So I got a theory in my head that it's probably not going to happen, but let me know what you think anyway. We know that the actress Marjorie is going to come back at some point. What if, what if Marjorie comes back, Brien kicks whoever he's dealing with at the time to the curb, and what if the mission statement, the original idea of the show happens? What if Brien ends up with Marjorie and Adam ends up with Heather or Summer? Am I absolutely crazy? I think I am.
We could be headed that way. We'll have to wait and see as we get closer to the end. And again, it all depends on, I can't remember if they knew it was the end or not, because I think that would make a big difference whether they knew the show was going to be over or if the show was still going to go on.
One thing that I did like about this episode is that it showed the futility of Dina's dating experience when the big billionaire guy decides to take her out on a date, but he does it in Richard Gere style, in that he flies her all the way to San Francisco for a dinner date. So I was like, this is great, but the reason why I like this is because this sort of illustrates to me that you're not really comfortable, or you're not really really okay with this divorce thing because of your behavior.
Yeah, I thought that was good. Her and TK finally go on the date, and like you said, he pulls a Richard Gere, but there's a big difference. He's not charming. He's a dud. He's boring. And Dina starts to realize, like, did this guy do all this just to get laid? Like, what a creep. We could have had a nice date in town and maybe got to know each other. So she realizes on the date, like, when he makes a remark about, yeah, this dinner's good, but wait till you see the breakfast. And she's like, fuck, I can't do this. I got to get out of here. And I thought that was interesting because it's maybe not how we expected that to go down, that she realizes midway through the date, like, can't stand this guy. I got to get out of here. And it's maybe pushing her back towards Dave, but the whole time we've actually been seeing Dave hitting on this girl at work, Sandwich Girl. He's been buying the most disgusting sandwiches from her. And we see, like, even his friends are like, these sandwiches, what in the hell is this? And it's Dave's been buying them because he thinks the Sandwich Girl is cute. And there's a kind of Goodwill Hunting, how do you like them apples moment that Dave gets when he gets her number and shows it to one of the dudes at work. And he's like, see, I got her number. And they go on their date and they have a good time. And of course, they go to a photo booth and they take a bunch of photos of them, like, making out. And I'm like, well, these photos are coming back at some point. Dave's going to put them in his jacket pocket. Dina's going to find them and then realize she's still in love with Dave and doesn't want him to see this woman. So I'm sure that those photos are ticking. Chekhov's photos got dropped on us partway through the episode. Is that where you think this is probably going to wind up?
Yes, and I fucking hate it. I cannot stand it. Why can't these people just be good people and get divorced and go on with each other's lives, taking care of their kids? Because you said it in the last episode. It seems that these people keep putting their personal feelings above their children, and it's fucking driving me insane. Look, I'm not going to say it, but at this point, Dave and Dina are rivaling another bad robot couple in the universe that only lasted a couple episodes on a beach before.
Well, hopefully, I would be surprised if Dave and Dina get paralyzed by spiders and buried alive, but we'll see if that's where we're going with the few episodes we've got left. Bad parenting is a staple of bad robot shows, and we've mentioned Dave and Dina already. The Brien and his dad shit, we get the fallout here, where Brien says to his dad, I can't believe you would introduce me to your wife and invite me to like a party where I've got to hang out with her when you are cheating on her behind her back. And he's like, I'm not doing that, Brien. What do you mean? Brian's like, I know about Bridget. And his dad's like, oh, busted. Sorry. Well, I'm a man. What can you say? And that's basically the speech he gives Brien about like, he's a man with needs and this is the real world. And, you know, it's a different ethos than Brien has. And so him and his dad are at like a crossroads because this is the kind of behavior that Brien has witnessed from him in the past and he can't stand by it. So it's causing problems for Brien at work. And then the flashbacks that we get in this episode that I mentioned are because Brien says his mom is coming into town for a visit. And we keep cutting back to, we know that Brian's mom has some mental issues and her husband didn't stand by her when this happened. They separated and Brien has never forgiven his dad for that. And we see when Brian's mom was having a manic episode and we keep cutting back to she's a hoarder and doing all this stuff. And it's all building up to her return and Brien trying to convince Nicole to come to see the mom, and Nicole doesn't want to see her because she said like, me and her don't have a relationship like you do. And it's funny because Brien hasn't talked to the dad for so long and Nicole doesn't talk to the mom. So like they both have these parental issues that like, again, parents who are not good. And the mother, it's not her fault because it is mental illness that has caused this. I do find it weird that we would bring this storyline in now. The mom is showing up 2 weeks after her son-in-law's funeral that she did not fucking attend. What the hell? If you're going to get on a plane ever, maybe do it for your son-in-law's funeral. Like, why did this not happen 3 episodes ago when they were about to bury Angelo and have the catharsis with the mom have to happen as part of the grieving? Like, I just don't understand that the mom didn't come to visit when literally her daughter's husband died.
I'm with you with that one because if you did that, you could have the double whammy of Brien and Nicole's mother showing up out of nowhere at Angelo's funeral. You could have the catharsis. You could actually tee up the fact that she does have mental illness, but the thing that contributed to that is the fact that Brian's father was an asshole and someone who was not loyal to his wife and somebody who was chasing hoo-ha for his whole fucking career. And after you tee that up, in a couple episodes, you could actually reveal that Brien was actually having an affair with the woman that Brien wants to date at this point in time, which is Bridget. It would have been a double whammy.
Yeah. I think that would have been the way to do it. I think you're onto something there, and maybe they were only plotting the season out 6 episodes at a time, and it didn't come up.
Also, this kind of feels kind of late to you, doesn't it? Because we have like what a couple weeks left here.
Yeah. Again, it feels like a show that maybe didn't know that it was winding down, and so they're introducing a lot of stuff that if they knew for sure that this season was only going to be 19 episodes and then the show would be over for good, I don't know if we would spend the time with this story.
Right. So it'll be very interesting to see where we go in the weeks to come. But I really think that my theory is probably not going to happen. But I think it would be really cool if that's what they did. But they're not going to do it because all my theories suck. But Matt, do you have anything else to say, or else I can bring us home?
I think you can probably bring us home. That's the crux of this episode. The rest is just Nicole trying all the different methods to have the baby and nothing works. And then she does show up at that final meeting with the mom for their like moment of forgiveness that I'm sure we're going to have to deal with next week too.
All right, guys. So on that quick note, I think that'll do it for this edition of Radio 815. Listen, guys, if you like us, at all and you want to reach out to us for a particular reason, you can reach out to us on the house that Elon built, Twitter, X, whatever the fuck it's called. We're at JJ Universe 815. If you want to send us an email for whatever reason, we are at radio815 at AOL.com. If you want to talk to me about JJ, or if you want to come and log some movies with me, you can add me on the TV Time app. It's similar to Letterboxd. Just search for me there, and we'll log some movies together. But Matt, if the folks at home want to not talk to you, how can they go about not doing that?
They can not talk to me on Letterboxd at MDC3000, and we can just like each other's reviews and see what people are watching.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for listening to us. But as I often say, we'll talk back soon.
Radio 815 is a Balloonhead Productions presentation in association with Killer Newt Productions.